Hi, everyone. Satya and Emily here with Reese Evans today. Reese is a mindset and abundance coach and the creator of the Yes Supply method. And she is on a mission to teach the world the power of the subconscious mind, energetics, and universal laws to create the life that you were meant to live, which is so cool. And she uses a formula that uses techniques like NeuroLinguistic Programming, hypnotherapy, EFT tapping, energy work. And you are on a mission to spread this power message to the world. And you also train hundreds of people in your Yes Supply method coaching certification to really create massive positive impact. You are so cool. This is amazing.
I'm so excited to connect today. Thank you so much for having me. And I was really excited to see that we're chatting today and you guys are all about mamahood. This is actually going to be my first mama podcast, right? Because I always talk about business and my growth and everything like that, but I haven't had a mama podcast. So,
and you're a new mama.
Yeah, we're little 2 months old, almost 3 months old.
It's amazing. How are you feeling? How is it all going?
It's going really good. It's going really good. You know, with motherhood, they say it's a full-time job. And I'm like, well, a full-time job, your boss sends you home and you get to sleep. Mamahood, you don't, your boss doesn't wake you up at 2 a.m.
Baby is the boss. It's like round the clock, nonstop. And you're definitely in the thick of it. Emily and I were just talking about how as our kids are getting a little bit more, as they're older and independent, we're finally feeling like ourselves again, our pre-baby selves. Obviously it's different, but it's nice, and it's nice to be where you're at because it is temporary. It doesn't last very long.
Yeah, but I'm honestly enjoying every moment and I'm soaking it in. And I'm really blessed because I got my business really set up before. So everything's kind of just running like a well-oiled machine. I'm able to just do the things that are fun for me. And Isaiah, I spend so much time with him and it's amazing. And then his dad is great too. So he's watching him right now for this podcast. So yeah, but he's so sweet. He's at the point now where he's just giggling at everything and really making eye contact with us and studying our faces and getting to know us. And it's funny, obviously he can't talk yet, but all of his little nonverbal cues, I should say, I always know what he's saying. I always know what he wants.
Isn't that wild how you just know?
Just know.
To anybody else, it sounds just like the gurgle he did 2 minutes ago, but you're like, no, it's different. It's the doctor this time or whatever it is.
I remember my midwife had me download this app called, I think it was Baby Sounds. And it's literally babies communicate and they have sounds for things and many of the babies have the same sounds for the same things. So it's amazing. It's all amazing.
Yeah. My doula told me about, I think it's called Dunstan baby language.
Yes,
so
that's it.
So much at the beginning because we're like, oh, and he's hungry or he has a burp or whatever it is. So it's helped us so much too.
Love that.
How is that transition? Because you are such an entrepreneur and really, really busy. And then you become a mama and you become busy in a very, very different way. How has that balancing between the two worlds been for you to be a career woman and an entrepreneur, but now also a mama who is needed 24/7? Has that been a struggle for you to find the balance of when to do what or when to be what, or has it been rather seamless?
Yeah, I'm somebody who works very much in my feminine and I can't remember who it is, but I remember there was a speaker or a book or something like that said, when we're resisting the present moment, that's what creates struggle. And so I noticed that if I notice myself getting stressed, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that, I realize I'm resisting what's currently happening. It's such a short amount of time where he's going to be this cuddly and this young and this little and want to be with me all the time. And, everything else is going to be there when I'm ready. My business is going to be there when I'm ready. The clients are going to be there when I'm ready, but he's only going to be this small. And so I'm always checking myself and coaching myself and being am I resisting or am I trying to trying to make this moment something that it's not, because this moment is like really about him and our bond right now. And this time is so important. Like, I used to be somebody who was really shy. And I remember, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced, but have you ever gone to a party and you don't know anyone? So you're just clinging to that one person that you went with? Well, that's how he feels right now. Like he's new on the planet and he doesn't know anyone except me. So he's like, I just want to be with you. Like, I feel safe with you. Like, I don't know anyone here. And so I'm always like checking myself and going into his perspective of like he's new, like he's just trying to figure it out. And I feel really blessed that I've done so much mindset work up to this point, because I think sometimes people think like, oh, the baby's like just crying because they're just crying, or they're angry, or they're sad. Or I've heard like online, I've seen people say like, oh, like if you cuddle them too much or blah, 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 like the baby's training you. And it's like, no. Like this baby's just trying to survive. Like he's not being like an a-hole or anything like that. Like it just wants to survive. It just wants to feel safe. It just wants to feel loved, just like all of us do. And it hasn't learned all of the filters that we have of like, it's not safe to be needy or anything like that. Like he's just being himself. So I'm just kind of going with what he needs and kind of just instinctually following like what he needs, what he's asking for, what I feel is right. And so as long as I'm not resisting the present moment, it all feels amazing.
I love that. So Emily and I are totally in that space. We totally understand when you use the word resistance. But for mamas or people out there who don't quite understand what resistance is or feels like, could you just put some words and give an example of what that feels and looks like?
Yeah. So I feel like resistance in your body will feel like a little bit of anxiousness or a little bit of stress. It feels like a dense energy. And what it is when you're expecting the moment of now to be something that it's not, right? Like, my baby was born and it's like, if I'm expecting like, oh, 2 weeks in, I'm back to working 8 hours a day, or I'm expecting that my life was going to look like how it did before, then I'm expecting something that just isn't the present moment, or trying to force something that isn't my now. And it's so funny because of course my brain's going to go like this. Like I've been like only really needing to take care of myself for the whole beginning of my life. Right. So of course my brain's going to go to, oh, but I'm used to taking a shower every day. I'm used to being able to put on my makeup with 2 hands instead of 1 hand, or, make avocado toast with 2 hands instead of 1 hand, because he loves to be held all the time. And so if I'm resisting, then in my head, I'm like, oh my God, like this is stressful. It's heavy, da, da, da. But when I'm like, wait a second, like what is better than cuddling a cute baby? Like
especially your cute baby.
Yeah. Like what is literally what is better? So instead of resisting, like, oh, I can't make my avocado toast with 2 hands. Like, wait, but I get to cuddle with him and I can take my time, and I don't have to make my avocado toast in 5 minutes like I used to. It can take me 15 minutes. I can sit down and play and then go back to it or whatever. And just like going in the flow, that's when you just release resistance and move into surrender. And actually, I think, especially for me, and I'm sure for most people, the theme of 2020 is surrender. Not trying to say, oh, it should be this way. I shouldn't have to wear a mask. I should be able to go to the same parties or whatever. Like when we resist, we just create so much like pain and internal suffering. And when we just move away from that and just say it is what it is and enjoying the current moment, again, you just get so much more out of enjoyment out of the current moment.
Yeah. My husband, I remember when we had our newborn, our daughter, he said, the suffering that we felt as new parents was when our daughter was here and we were expecting her to do this, or we were expecting her to sleep. And that gap is the disconnect, right? When those two things meet, it's when happiness really exists. When your expectations of anything, and it's anything in life, right? Like whether it's your children or your job or how you feel today, like it's always that expectation that really kind of kicks your ass. But if you're able to like stop, like you said, and just see like every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling something. What is that? Oh, it's resistance. There's actually an amazing book. What's his name? Pressfield. I don't know if you read it. The War on Art. Oh my God.
Oh yes.
It's
I've heard of it.
Good.
It's like a book, but I haven't actually read it.
but it's all about like, it's the artist's version of resistance. Like, oh, I can't write today. I've got this to do. Right. But that resistance is like this dance of like, how can you play with this other thing that's telling you like, well, I should be doing this. Like Emily is doing it this way, then I should be doing that way, you know? And it's that dance.
Yeah. I've had those exact moments where it's like I was telling you before we started recording, he's so calm and he's amazing most of the day. But then between 9 and 10, I don't know, like something turns on and he just screams for an hour. There's nothing that we can do. And so if I'm resisting this, like, oh my God, why is he screaming? What am I doing wrong? What am I missing? Like trying to force or trying to make it something it's not. It's really, really stressful. But when I'm like, wait a second, again, he's new to this party and I'm the only person he knows. I'm like, he just wants to feel safe. And instead of thinking he's screaming because he's angry or he's sad, I always remind myself too that he can't talk yet. So he's not actually like screaming or crying. He's communicating the only way that he knows how to communicate. And in a couple of years, it'll be, Mom, I'm hungry, or Mom, I'm tired, but I don't know how to put myself to sleep. But for now, it's just screaming. And so I just like cuddle him, talk to him, play music, like dance around. Sometimes he's like crying or just like dancing around. When he falls asleep. Yeah, whatever works. And just like not making it painful, but just like enjoying every moment and learning from every moment too.
I love it.
I love what you said, Reese, that we live our whole lives with ourselves in the center, pretty much. And when we have a child, that completely changes. It shifts. It's a major transformation. And all of a sudden, life revolves around this new little being. And I just love that you kind of reminded us that it's normal to feel, it's almost like our whole being, our brain is so used to going down this lane, right? This track is where it keeps falling into, which is me, myself, and I. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, there's an entirely new track, an entirely new path. And it's okay that it is uncomfortable, that it gets frustrating, that it's hard. I think many reasons why a lot of moms beat themselves up is because we're supposed to be so damn happy all the time and so content and so grateful, and motherhood should just like fit like a glove. And then it doesn't. And then you're just like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my baby? What's wrong with the situation? And then that resistance becomes like frenetic and it really starts to hurt. But how sweet if you can just go, okay, it's the resistance. It's my mind getting used to a new track. This is okay. Let's just try to do less and be more. And which is why what you do is so incredible. And we, of course, want to give our amazing community of mamas as many tools as they can possibly have. And just this way of what you teach, that we are not our thoughts. We can actually begin to control our thoughts, which will then change our behavior. And it all aligns in a different way. And we would love to dig in a little bit to the techniques that you use and maybe find a way. I wish we had like 14 hours with you right now.
Seriously, there's so many questions.
Talk to you guys all day.
That would be the perfect scenario. But
can we start with your method? Are you cool to start with the method? Because I was on your site and I was looking at everything, and I saw that you have design your yes as the first thing, right? And I feel like a lot of people don't understand what their yes or what they want, what they even want in life, right? Like people are so frustrated about their job, but they haven't sat down to think about like what would be my ideal situation, right? And then you did your empowered self, determine your essential skills, exoneration of the old self, and your internal success. And then I guess talk about those things, and then how you also include NLP and EFT tapping and neurolinguistic programming.
Yeah, absolutely. So my method is something that I've come up with after just figuring it out and figuring out like every time I manifest something great, I always go through this 5-step system. And the cool thing about the system too is it'll work for you even if you don't have these tools. But of course, as you continue to get more mindset tools, so if you take an NLP program or hypnosis or anything like that, then you can make it more powerful and make it more effective. So step 1 is getting clear on what it is that you want. And I think first off, we're so programmed to know exactly what it is that we don't want, and we're not really taught how to focus on what we want. So the typical conversation is like, oh, I hate my boss, or my partner is not doing this, or da 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 da. And again, whatever you focus on expands. And so that problem becomes bigger. It makes us more stressed out. We focus more of our attention or energy on it. And if your attention and energy is focused on all of the problems, you can't spend any focus or attention actually creating the life that you want. And we live in a participatory universe. So it's important for us to play our part in working with the universe and the world around us to create the outcome. So yes, the question that I always ask myself and that my clients ask themselves is, what would I ask for if I knew the answer was going to be yes? And why I love this question is because rather than just thinking about like, oh, well, I made 50K last year, so maybe I can make 55 this year, and determining what you want based on your past results, this question, what would you ask for if you knew the answer was going to be yes, allows you to just, clear the screen, blue sky. If you weren't tied to anything, if you weren't tied to like your current relationship or your current job or the degree that you have or don't have or whatever, like what would you ask for if you knew that if you asked, the other person would say yes? And that opens you up to like infinite potential. And in that, what you want to do is you want to allow yourself to dream and to not instantly stomp on it, right? So many times say, oh, that would be nice, but that person can have it. It's easier for them. It's not easier for us. And we so often stomp on our dreams before even giving them a little bit of energy to be like, oh, well, maybe it's possible. So that's so important to think about. And then one thing that just comes up a lot as like a side note is if anyone's listening and they're saying, well, I don't know what it is that I want. I didn't know what, when I started YesApply, I had no clue I was going to start a certification. This came as a journey of me following what felt good. So a question you can ask yourself if you don't know, like, I don't know what I want. And that's like sometimes a lot of pressure for people to decide what do they want and like what's their perfect fairy tale happy ending. You could ask yourself, well, what would be better than what you have right now? Or what would you like more, right? So if you find the apartment you live in is too small, like an apartment that's 1,000 square feet rather than 600 square feet, or if your partner talks to you a certain way, I prefer if they talk to me in this way, or in your job, if you don't have that much creativity, maybe you get a little bit more creativity. So just ask yourself what would be better than what you have now or feel better. And that's going to kind of lead you down the path to opening yourself up to like, okay, this is what I actually want.
I find that women typically, I'm generalizing here, but I find that we have been told our entire lives to be happy with what we have. You have this, you should be so happy. And you're like, well, I want this other thing too. And that's okay. And I feel like there's this incredible movement happening now where women have the opportunity to be investigators, right? We get to decide, I've been going through this for the last 20 years, right? Like, do I like white wine or do I like red wine? Like, who told me I like red wine, right? Like, I actually like fucking champagne. Like, I'm a champagne person, right? And so like being an investigator but I find so many times I have friends who are like, well, I just don't know what I want. And I'm like, yes, because you're not giving your time to investigate. You're not asking yourself the right questions for you, right? It's not like, what's the ideal situation? You have no more choices. And this is the ultimate deadline. And it's like the world and the universe is such an infinite and powerful thing that like anything you dream up is possible, but we set these limitations in our mind. And I think that's from what you said about it's hard to believe that you only, like your kid's only 10 weeks old. And I can tell that you've done mindset work because of the things that you're saying. And also just looking at you look fully alive. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not me at 10 weeks with my first kid. I was a mess, like I really was a mess. And I was getting stuck in that struggle, right? Because I wasn't allowing myself the creative abundance of the universe or of God or whatever we call it to show me. I wasn't living space for that magic. Does that, like I was letting resistance win. And so I love what you say about like identifying, right? And investigating like who and what we want to be. And we can change, right? It's so cool. We can change. We can constantly change.
Yes, absolutely. And even though you set that goal, as you start to go on that path, it might change. Like I just wanted to create a platform that inspired people. And then as I moved forward on it, then I started to learn new things and new things got my interest. And then I kind of went down that rabbit hole and that path, but it's definitely a journey as well, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So then step 2 after that. So once you're clear on what it is that you want, then you want to ask yourself, like, who the version of me who has that thing. So has that dream job or that family or, you know, whatever it is that you're after. Who is that person? How do I describe myself? Because your self-image, how you see yourself, that's what is going to, you know, create your life. And that's going to set the tone for your energy. So what I would actually do is journal out, like, this would be the characteristics of myself. This is how I would feel. This is how people would feel around me, all those different things, and make it really, really clear in your mind, that version of you that you want to be, that would easily and effortlessly manifest the goal. Step 3 is figuring out, like, do you need to achieve mastery in anything? So for example, like me wanting to create a successful coaching business, I knew that if I'm going to go down this path, I want to be really good at what I do. Like if people are going to sign up for my products and services, I want to give them incredible value. Like for you with your cocoons, it's like you didn't just like throw a piece of fabric together and cross your fingers. It's like you love it so much you're wearing it right now, you know, and you're obsessed with it and it looks amazing. Yeah. And so it's like that version of you, like maybe you guys had to learn about textiles, or you had to do research to find the best manufacturers, or you had to get a branding expert to help with your brand or whatever it is. And so for me, I took certifications, I read books, I also walked my talk. So I didn't just read a bunch of books and then hide behind my computer. I would do what scared me and show up and do live streams and videos and make posts and hire that hire for the future version of me rather than the current version of me. And so that's how you achieve mastery and have the skill set of that version of you. Then the next step. So
sorry, I'm going to interrupt you really quickly.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
One thing that I loved on your site about both the empowered self and the essential skills. I love that you are bold enough and embodied enough to show up for your community and say, like, I had $100,000 month, and then being that that person that other people can now look up to and say, you know what, Reese did it, I can do it too. Because for me, I'm like, anytime I have a friend who tells me like, hey, I just did $1 million in my business, I'm like, fuck yeah, they did it, we can do it too. Or whatever, you know, I manifested twins, right? Like, oh, she did it, Reese can do it too, right? Like, it's so powerful when you're bold enough to share your successes. You are literally lifting up the rest of the female entrepreneurial community. And that is,
and we're told that if we do that, then we're bragging, we're boasting, like all those things. If a man were to do it, he would for sure be celebrated. No second thoughts about it. But if a woman goes there, you know, even women look at us in a weird way. So I love that you're paving the way that, you know, we absolutely need to look at that as, she did it. We can do this. We can do this.
And I feel like that's changing, right? I do feel that women are starting to be like, I feel like it's shifting, right? There's less of this like, well, I can't believe she just posted that, right? It's more like, holy crap, she like posted that, right?
Yeah. And it takes bravery. So thank you for doing that.
It's so good. And Reese, what are your top 3 books that you read that like inspired you to go down this path?
Ooh, interesting. Top 3 books. So one thing I do want to share on that previous note too, though, is every single time I post my income, I actually feel really scared. I do feel scared of, you know, somebody saying something like that. But then I remember like my purpose, and I recognize that I'm not posting to show off or to be like, I'm better than anyone or anything like that. It is for proof of what's possible. Just like, even sometimes sharing aspects of my birth story too, are nervous because sometimes women can be, like I have had an experience where I shared a positive birth story and somebody was like, I guess triggered by it or upset by it because she didn't have a positive birth. And it's like, I didn't post it to try to make anyone feel bad or anything like that. But I'm like, before I gave birth, I would sit on YouTube for like hours and watch natural births, like positive natural births. to show my subconscious mind that it was possible for me, because I was scared. I'm like, how's this human going to get, how's that going to get out of here?
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that those people posted it. And so it's like, if we just do it from a place of supporting each other and celebrating each other and like, here, take my hand. Like I did it. I want to take you with me. Then yeah, it's just all about building each other up. So thank you for sharing that. And then you asked me about my top 3 books. And I feel like that's such a hard question because I've read like so many books.
Well, how about let me rephrase the question. If somebody was new to this type of work, what 3 books would you recommend that they start with?
If they were new to business or to mindset?
I would say mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset.
And like subconscious mind and how to kind of retrain
the brain.
Retrain the brain.
I'm trying to think. So in terms of abundance mindset, I really love Marianne Williamson, The Law of Divine Compensation.
Yes.
Such a good book for just like thinking abundantly and tapping into spirit and everything like that. And a book that I'm actually reading right now that I really like is called Mind to Matter by, I think it's called Darwin Church.
I just finished it.
Oh, you just finished it. It's so good.
I totally, yes. It's
amazing. And it really backs with science how much like our minds create our reality. And it talks about like, you know, essentially how we think is creating the world around us. So I think that would be a really great one as well. And like, it's not a book, but like for me, especially with neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis, even more than a book, I would say take a course or sign up for a session with somebody who's done it, because like, I feel like right now we don't need more content. We need more conversations. We need more connection. Right. And so when I know it's hard with the pandemic, but like when I was in a classroom of people and actually practicing the techniques and having them done on me and being able to see those shifts, and I'm such a hands-on learner as well. It just solidified everything for me so much more. I love reading and I love books, but sometimes you see like, oh, in theory, that looks really cool. But then when you actually have someone do it to you, it's like, oh my God, like life-changing. So
it's the application and practice of the knowledge.
Yeah. And also too, right now, like for anyone who's listening and it's still the pandemic and you're in lockdown or whatever, like we need connection. Just because we're all locked inside doesn't mean all of a sudden as humans, we've lost our need for human connection. Right. So what we used to have a lot of our trainings in person, but now with the pandemic, we're doing online interactive training. So through Zoom, you can do breakout rooms. People can practice the techniques with each other. And our students are creating these amazing bonds and like lifelong friendships and having shifts and sharing their deepest, darkest secrets and tears and everything like that in these online live interactive training. So I think too, with mindset work, there's so many people who take course after course after course, or read book after book after book, but don't implement. If you can get yourself in a room where someone's like, okay, you have to practice, you have to do it, and it just like forces you to do it, then you get the real shift and then you come out that transformed person.
Did we finish the 5 steps, by the way?
Or I think we were on number 4.
We can make our way back. So the next step was exoneration of your old self. So what this means is, like how we talked about before, for X amount of years before you had a baby, your brain was so used to, you know, firing the neural pathway of like, just do things for myself, or be this type of person, or be in this type of identity, right? And so if you want to create the life that you want, everything that you want is outside of your comfort zone, meaning everything that you want is on a new neural pathway, a new habit track than what you're used to. And so in this area, it's all about forgiving your past self, thanking your past self for how much it served you and getting to where it is that you are now, but then releasing any old programs or paradigms or people's expectations of who you are, and just allowing yourself to release that and become the person who you are. Because when we think about it, a lot of us are not being our true selves. We're being who others expect us to be, right? Like if you grew up and your parents always said, oh, you're the smart one, or you're the funny one, or whatever, and we put ourselves in that box, and then, you know, you get to 30, 40, 50, and you ask yourself, am I this person, or am I just doing what felt safe, or doing what I learned to do or learned to be in order to receive love? So it's about like, it's not about, blaming or anything like that. It's like, thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for bringing me to this point. And now I'm going to give myself permission to tear down the box that I've been putting myself in and actually become who I want to be.
That's like motherhood, right? Like that's like that birth process, that uncomfortable place. And then you need to like literally create the new person who you are. Emily and I talk about this a lot. Like motherhood is often removing those layers that no longer serve us, that are no longer true, that somebody told us that we were beautiful or kind. And now we show up as that. And we think we need to be that for these kids. And we have to stop and say, is that true? Is that true? And is that who I want to be? And what's this next mother person that I am? Right. And I would say, Emily, you and I are like about to be into that next stage also of motherhood, right? Where it's like, the cycle is continuously happening, which is amazing. Right.
Totally. We're constantly growing. And it's so funny too. I was going to say this before and then I forgot, but now I remember. So perfect. Mom brain, right? But it's like, I think we were talking about how sometimes moms beat themselves up. Like, I'm supposed to be this perfect mom. I'm supposed to be smiley all the time. But it's like when your baby, starts to crawl and then it falls over, starts to walk or falls over, you don't say like, no, you're supposed to walk by now, TikTok, right? And we have to remember for ourselves too, like we're still growing, right? Like just because we're not an infant, we're still growing. So we have to give ourselves that same grace that if we fall down or we're not perfect or we don't look like the Pinterest perfect mom, like we're still lovable and we're still acceptable. Just like if our kid falls down, we still love him or her, even if it doesn't walk as fast as the blog post on whattoexpect.com said or whatever, you know what I mean?
Completely.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. And then the last step is your expectant state. So this is creating your self-fulfilling prophecy of what it is that you want. So expecting whatever that goal was that you set for yourself, expecting that that's going to come to be, because essentially faith and fear are the exact same thing. Faith is expectation of what you want to come into fruition, and fear is expectation of what you don't want to come into fruition. And so in every moment we have the choice to just choose, I have faith that this is going to show up. I don't have to control. I don't have to know the how. I just need to follow the intuition that comes to me. I just need to follow what feels good and trust myself, and whatever I want will inevitably work out.
That is so amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah, go ahead, Satya.
I was going to say, and how do you integrate and use the tools? I'm thinking specifically about NLP and ETF. In each of these stages or overall.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use NLP to especially set the goal. So when you think of anything, your mind creates an internal experience. So our thoughts are like a package of something that we see, hear, and feel. So if I were to get you to like think about when your baby was born, right? Most people listening are probably moms. So think about when your baby was born. You can actually in your mind go back to that place, right? You could probably see the room or see your baby coming out or see the look on your partner's face or whatever that is, right? So you go there in your mind, right?
Yeah.
And that's how our thoughts are formed. Even though we speak in words, we think in these experiences. And so the same thing goes for projecting your future goal. So when you think about your goal, some of the people who are listening are going to have a real experience. They're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm standing on that stage and I'm accepting that award, because it's so much more clear to them in their subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind can't tell the difference between real and imagined.
Right.
It feels more familiar and you're going to be more likely to move there. But so many of us, when we say, think of your goal, it's just like question mark, right? We can't experience it. So we use NLP, NeuroLinguistic Programming, to help you create that internal experience of your goal and make it real. Can you really see it? Can you really feel it? Can you really experience it? We work with the timeline within your mind, because we also track, our past and our future in our subconscious mind. Our subconscious remembers everything. So we use your subconscious timeline, and you can actually put your goal in your future subconscious timeline. So you're reprogramming your mind to take action or, move forward or feel more positive or feel less fear about that thing that's coming to you in the future. So to kind of break it down, hopefully that made sense. But if somebody says like, I'll just do it easy, like a weight loss goal. Like I want to lose 20 pounds at the end of the month. But if they think about themselves at the end of the month and they still see themselves at their current weight, that's what's going to happen, right? But if they think of themselves at the end of the month and they are in that new shape, it's more likely that that's going to happen because now you've programmed your subconscious mind to take you there. It's like a thermostat. You're just setting the thermostat because if you think about it, your subconscious mind is doing so many things for you without you even thinking about it. Like you're listening to this podcast right now and your heart's beating in your chest and your lungs are beating and you're breathing and your eyes are blinking and who knows, you might be driving or holding a baby and you're not consciously thinking about all these things. Your subconscious is doing this all for you. So your subconscious can also line you up to achieving your goals.
And by the way, I want to again interrupt.
Yeah, sorry.
I can just go on for days. Oh no, it's amazing. If anybody who's listening to the podcast who thinks that this is like all baloney and it's like this group of people who just think that manifestation, I literally, I've read so many books about all of this stuff. And my favorite study is Olympic athletes. When they study them, with their eyes closed, laying in a chair or in bed, thinking about the race and finishing the race at a certain time, their muscles actually physically triggered same response as if they were actually running that Olympic race. So our minds and our bodies are this is just even the tip of the iceberg that we're learning right now, right? With how much our brain and our body are interacting and what that creates. But if you don't believe it, go do your own research and you will see that literally the mind does not know the difference between reality and what we think, right? It has no idea. And actually there's two movies that I had amazing parents who introduced this stuff to me when I was in my teens, but
so
What the Bleep Do We Know? And what's the other book? There's another movie, but What the Bleep Do We Know? I was like, oh my gosh, our physical cells don't know the difference between what I think is going to happen and what is happening right now. So I might as well think about the things and feel the things that I want to, the life that I want to be living, right? The clients that I want to have, our cocoon, what it looks like, right? You might as well be focusing that beautiful creative energy on the things that you want versus the things that are existing currently. The brain does not know the difference.
Right. And I would also add, if you're somebody who feels like this can be very woo-woo and that is not really based on research and logic, another really great book is The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, where he talks a lot about the subconscious mind. And I think I might be butchering what he says, but the numbers are very close. The subconscious mind actually, what's the right word? It kind of leads our life 90% of the time. Yeah. And then the rest, the other 10% is the conscious mind. Would that be correct, Reese? Does that sound?
Or even more.
Or even more. So the subconscious mind is incredibly powerful. So to learn how to tap into that and use it in our favor is a really big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's research, tons of research on that one can also find if that feels important.
Totally. You also reminded me, they did another study or experiment where people who visualize doing a certain exercise, their muscle tone increased in the muscles that they would have used, just a fraction less than people who actually did the exercise. So you can wake up in the morning, visualize yourself going to the gym and
totally. That's what I do. I go to the gym. It's just in my mind. I'm in the gym all day, every day in my mind. Yeah. But it's so true. The mind is so freaking powerful, right? And the fact that we only use a small percentage of our brain just goes to show there is unlimited, untapped potential happening every day in this perfect body of ours, right? It's incredible.
And that's why I'm so passionate about this, because we're taught, isosceles triangles and all this random stuff in school, but we're not taught how to use our own mind, our own brain. And that's the most powerful supercomputer that we're ever going to come across. And just understanding even just a few techniques can completely change the course of our lives and also our kids' lives too.
That was going to be my next question. And I know we don't have very much time, so I hope you don't mind that we go over a little bit, but what are the things that you are going to ensure that Isaiah knows and believes to be true? Like about mindset and everything. Yeah.
Oh my God.
maybe that needs to be part 2 of this podcast. I actually think maybe that's something that we should do if you ever have more time, but like that is really an important thing.
Yeah.
You think?
I've already started thinking about like all of the things that I want to teach him. And there's just so much. I think a big one is just a different way to look at the world around him, because I remember me growing up, when things would happen to me, I would put the blame on the outside world. Like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? And so one of the big things that I'm going to teach him is that he can create the life that he wants, and he is empowered. And all of these rules and structures that are in the world, they were just given by another person, but no one else's opinion of him is more important than his opinion of himself. And also to, I think really just to understand emotions, like, you know, for children growing up, it's so tough because there's bullying and all these different things. And I just want to really help him understand that, like, if somebody says something about him, it's not about him. It's that that person might be dealing with their own stuff, or you know, if somebody is projecting negativity, it's not because he's negative, it's because that person has negativity within themselves that they need to work through. So I think this work in terms of interpersonal skills is going to be a really big thing that I teach him, because as humans, our relationships are the most important thing in our lives. Yet what are we never taught in school? We're never, like, I grew up in a really abusive household from ages 10 to 16, where my mom's ex was verbally and physically abusing her. And I had no clue what to do or how to act. And nobody teaches you, like, this is how a partner should treat you. And this is, and so it's just like, it's so confusing for a child coming into the world being like, is this okay? Like, how is the world supposed to be? So I want to teach him that. I want to teach him that it's safe to talk to me about anything and everything. And I want him to just understand that he's a really powerful, infinite being, and he can create anything he wants, even if he hasn't seen it done before.
I want to talk about kids and tapping and all that stuff, but I think we will be out of time since people's attention span kind of wanes at 30, 40 minutes. So maybe we can save it for another day. Obviously, we have tons to talk about. Really quickly, last question or 2 questions. I was thinking we should ask something about motherhood, something that you didn't expect, or had a specific good question. Now I can't think of it specifically, but yeah, anything about motherhood that surprised you or you're excited to experience?
So I was really excited about my birth. I did hypnobirthing, so I didn't use epidural or drugs or anything like that. And before getting pregnant, giving birth was my biggest fear. Like some people have, I used to have fear of public speaking and everything like that. I wasn't afraid of carrying a baby. I wasn't afraid of taking care of a baby, but actually pushing the baby out, biggest fear. And I had to do so much mindset work around it, because when I went back, I remember I would hear adults in my life talking about birth as if it was like, you know, your body rips in half. And then all we see on TV and movies is that it's just like this horrendous experience. And so I really I did so much research. I bought the Hypnobabies course. I hired a doula. Like I said, I watched so many YouTube videos and positive birth experiences and everything like that to retrain my brain that it can be a really positive experience. And so I think the biggest thing that I took out of it, I knew it in theory, or I thought it in theory until I actually went through with my birth. And now, like, I know that the media really just tries to make women feel like we're not as powerful as we are. Oh. And it tries to make us feel that we can't trust ourselves or we can't trust our own bodies. And I remember when I went into labor, like when my water broke, even though it was my first time, I knew exactly what to do. Like I remember my husband was like, should we call the doula and have her come? So I gave birth in the hospital. Like, should we call the doula and have her come here? I was like, if we wait for her to come here, I'm going to have this baby here. Like, I just knew like how, like, that my contractions were starting to mount. And like, I just knew. And like, we got there and like my doula wasn't sure. I was like, no, like, I'm going to have this baby. We checked into the hospital at 6:30. They brought me into triage, and like by the time we got into triage, it was around like 7:15, and I was 3 or 4 centimeters dilated, and then by 8, I was 10 centimeters dilated. Wow. And I gave gave birth to my baby at 9:30. Like, it all happened so quickly, and I just knew that it was happening. So anyway, long story short, I think every way that every woman brings their baby into the world is beautiful. Like, we're creating miracles here. So every way that anyone chooses to do it is beautiful. But I think the biggest thing to take away from it is like, we can trust ourselves and we can trust our bodies. And also after too, we have to love our bodies. Like, there's so much shaming around weight. And I think we hear so many other people talking about like weight, and I remember growing up and hearing my mom always saying like, I need to lose that last 10 pounds and da da da. It's like, we brought children into the world. Like, we've done like literally the most important work, like such important work. And to love your curves, love your boobs, love your stretch marks, like just love it all, because your body has done something so amazing. And like, no beauty standard can ever like stop that.
I literally, after giving birth to my first kid, was like, I'm a freaking god. Like, I'm God. Like, I just grew a child. They attached themselves to my uterus with this thing called the placenta, and I just birthed them out of my like vulva, pussy, vagina. Like, I'm a freaking god. Like, you better recognize. Yeah.
100%. I'm like, I wish every single woman felt like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's a mindset thing. I can't stress enough. Like, I literally feel like every person, every human being needs to go through some sort of mindset training. Like, it needs to be like a high school, like, physical education, as important as that course. Like, our brains are, and it's like, people see it as woo woo, and I'm like, great, see it as woo woo, but just like, I'll just keep passing you. And like, you know,
yeah, it's not woo woo, it's all science backed. And it's like, I actually had a comment on my YouTube the other day. Someone was like, it was an EFT video, because I post tons of videos on this stuff on YouTube. It was an EFT video, and someone commented like, maybe you shouldn't talk about all the woo woo moving energy on an EFT video. I'm like, you realize that we are all made of energy. Like, atoms are composed of electrons and protons. Like, we're pure energy. So talking about energy isn't woo woo. It's like, it's just talking about yourself. So I think we're all working together. We're all changing that paradigm. And one day everyone will know.
I think the movement's happening. I think it's happening. Reese, amazing.
You're so amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let us know real quick, where can people find you and the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can follow along on my motherhood journey and my, business journey on Instagram. And I'm posting lots of cute pictures of Isaiah.
So cute.
It's the best place to see them. And then for anyone who's interested in more of these mindset tools, also on YouTube, I post tons of videos just with all of the techniques. So with more time, you can go deeper into it. And then my website, we have blogs going out almost every week. So you can check out there for anyone who's interested in becoming a coach or learning more about these tools as well.
I love it.
I recommend that. So that's yessupply.co, right?
Yes.
The website is Yessupply on Instagram.
Yes.
And all the things that we didn't get to talk about today. I'm just so bummed. I have so many questions.
I know. It goes by so fast. So
we're going to do 2.0 where it's all about tapping.
But I'm just learning about tapping, and I actually watched some of your videos, which I then highly recommend everyone here, if you're interested in all of that. You have so much up on Instagram and on your website, so there you can just go there and find out. But I just watched some of your videos, and I did the tapping, and I was like, It absolutely did.
Using it every day.
Reese, maybe next cast that we do, maybe we can do like a little EFT tapping that would be helpful for new moms.
I love that. 100%.
Yeah. Because you have such a great video up where you say, it's so cute when you say no to the coffee and then you say no to the iPad. And I was like, I love that. And then you started tapping. And that's so brilliant for mamas because, you know, of course we go to the coffee and there's nothing wrong with that. You can have your coffee, you can have your iPad and go on, you know, social media, whatever. But if you need real energy and if you really want to have just experience less anxiety for a moment, there are very easy, quick things that you can do and free for that stuff. So
you just need 2 fingers. You can actually do 1 finger.
Yeah. I just love it so much. This is what I'm going to be doing all day.
Yeah, I do it every day. Every time I'm stressed, I'm just like,
you're like,
and for Steve too, when I was birthing, I was like tapping.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Brilliant. All right. Next conversation.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
We'll get to that.
Sounds great. Thank you, Reese.